Radhikaya Tadaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yotapadagamam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Chirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakandridamscha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Govika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sade Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vanchakalpa Turubhascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shridhari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Nama Eva Kevalam Kola Nasteva Gattiranyata. So we're reading from Jaiva Dharma. Third chapter. Namitika Dharma is to be relinquished. So, Premdas Babaji Maharaj speaking to the sannyasi Thakur, who got initiated with the name Vaishnav Das. So, in a very simple way, but the main thing is actually Premdas Babaji Maharaj accepted that sannyasi who approached him humbly as a disciple, wanted to be his disciple. So he understood his mood, his consciousness. So then Babaji Maharaj gave him the name Vaishnav Das. And all the devotees, they were very happy. And Vaishnav Das was also happy, and very humbly he took the blessings of all the Vaishnavas present there. So a fortunate gentleman was also there, and at that time when this happened, so he had taken up the practice of chanting holy names. So in his childhood, the gentleman had been trained in Indian classical music by some of the most prestigious music masters of Delhi. Because of that training, he had become strong enough to put himself forward as the lead singer during performances of Harinam Sankirtan. The Vaishnavas did not like his polished classical style of singing. He would show off some of his musical artistry during Sankirtan, and then look expectantly at others' faces for recognition. He continued to lead Kirtan for many days and gradually began to experience some pleasure in Sankirtan. So here it is indicated that we should perform Harinam Sankirtan, we should do japa, and but we should do it in a humble way for the pleasure of the Lord, not to gain some recognition. So which that gentleman he was expecting. But nevertheless he continued performing kirtan. And he was getting some pleasure in performing kirtan. After some time he came to Sri Godrum in order to join the kirtan programs of the Navadi Vaishnavas, and he took up residence in the ashram of a Vaishnav there. On this particular day, accompanied by that Vaishnav, he had come to Pradumna Kunj and was sitting in the Malati Madhavi Grove when he saw the Vaishnav's humble behavior towards each other and heard Vaishnav Dasa's words. Many doubts arose in his mind. Being a skilled orator, he audaciously raised the following inquiry before the assembly of Vaishnavas. The Manusmriti and other Dharma Shastras state that the Brahmana caste is the highest caste. According to the Shastras, religious rites such as Sandhya Vandana, the chanting of Vedic mantras, such as Brahma Gayatri, Dawn, Noon and Night Satsang, are considered to be nitya karma, eternal duties for the Brahmanas. If these activities are obligatory, why is Vaishnava behavior opposed to them? Vaishnavas have no caste for mundane argument and debate. If the question had been put by an argumentative Brahmana, they would have not replied for fear of becoming embroiled in a battle of words. However, since they saw that the present questioner regularly sang Harinam, they all said, "We will be most happy if Paramahamsa Babaji Mahashai answers your question." On hearing the order of the Vaishnavas, Paramahamsa Babaji Mahashai offered obeisances and said, "O great souls, if you so desire, the respected Bhakta, Sri Vaishnav Das, will answer this question in full." All the Vaishnavas consented to this proposal. So here we can see that the Vaishnavas, they don't like to waste their time. They want to do their bhajan. They want to satisfy the Lord. And they don't want to engage in some argument with, unnecessary argument with mundane people. So, but because the gentleman was also regularly chanting Harinam, so they were ready to answer his question. And they requested Paramahamsa Babaji Maharaj to answer. Babaji Maharaj so very humbly suggested that Sri Vaishnav Das may answer this question. When Vaishnav Das heard the words of his Gurudev, he considered himself most fortunate and humbly said, am wretched and insignificant. It is completely inappropriate for me to say anything in such a learned assembly. Nonetheless, I must always bear the order of my Guru Dev upon my head. I have drunk the nectar of spiritual instructions flowing from my Guru's lotus mouth. I shall remember that and speak as far as my ability allows. Having smeared his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of Paramahamsa Babaji, he then stood up and began to speak. Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the essence of all different types of expansions and avatars. He is directly Bhagavan himself, full of transcendental bliss. The all-pervading, featureless Virnirvishesh Brahma is the effulgence of his limbs, and Paramatma, who resides in the hearts of all jivas, is his partial expansion. May he be pleased to enlighten us from within. So actually, this is a custom that when we are asked to speak, then we very humbly remember Sri Guru, the previous acharyas, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Sri Radha and Krishna. Therefore we chant. If we do not have much time before speaking, then we chant Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Etadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tara Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. So here Babaji Maharaj, so the having blessed Vaishnav Das, so he let Vaishnav Das speak, and so he offered obeisances, of course, taking the dust of the feet of Paramahamsa Babaji, and this way taking shelter of his lotus feet. So he glorified Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya is no different from Krishna. And there's a beautiful verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in the Adi Lila, first chapter. And the Mangala Charan verses are there, glorification of Mahaprabhu. So this verse is, so to say, the paraphrasing of this verse. Yadadvaitam pranipashari padpata ya atmantaryami purushitya samsam savibhava sadaishvaya punam sayam bhagavan sayam na chaitanya krishna jagadi paratatam param yaha. So that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is no different from Krishna. And they are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there is no truth superior to them. And so they are Sad Aishwarya Purna. So they are the Personality of Godhead, full of all transcendental bliss, and Sada Aishwarya Purna. So the opulences of the Lord Bhagavan are there in full in the personality of Mahaprabhu and Krishna. So they are Purna Bhagavan, Swayam Bhagavan. Only Mahaprabhu and Krishna are addressed as Swayam Bhagavan, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Full in all opulences, Sad Aishwarya Purna. And the 6 opulences are there: fame, yasha, virya, the strength, jnana, knowledge, and then the opulence is there. And then also, so knowledge, of course, is there in full. The personality of Krishna is Samvit Shakti. And then renunciation is there in full, in the personality of Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As Krishna, when he is leaving the Rasa lands, so he's surrounded by the gopis, 16,000, millions of gopis even. But he can easily leave them. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Prakat Leela, so he's leaving his young wife and his mother at the tender age of almost 25 years of age. And here, so the Upanishads, they are glorifying that the effulgence, Tanuba, and the Upanishads are describing that he is the Supreme Lord, and the effulgence, that is the Advai, the Advaitam. So the impersonal aspect of the Lord is there, the effulgence of the Lord, the Brahmajyoti. That is the effulgence of Krishna, the effulgence of Mahaprabhu is the Brahmajyoti. And then the Paramatma, Ya Antaryami. So that is the expanded form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Krishna. Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras are respected throughout the world because they establish the codes and prohibitions that follow the line of thought of the Vedic Shruti Shastras. Human nature has two tendencies in regard to religious pursuit. The first is called Vaidhi, the nature which impels one to follow the rules and regulations of Shastra. And the second is Raganuga, the nature which impels one to follow the soul's spontaneous attraction towards Sri Krishna. So that is an important point. And as we know, Rupa Goswami is explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that Vaidhi Bhakti has to be followed, and the rules and regulations. Sadhana Bhakti, sadhana has to be there. So which includes following rules and regulations. But then the second aspect of sadhana Bhakti, that is Raganuga Bhakti, following the mood of the eternal associates of Krishna in Braj, who have spontaneous love for Krishna, deep love and attachment for Krishna, Ragatmik Jan. So following them, that is known as Raganuga. And in order to attain Krishna and Braj, that process has to be adopted of Raganuga Bhakti. As long as the intelligence is under the control of Maya, human nature must be regulated by rules and regulations. Thus, in this condition, the Vaidhi nature will certainly be in effect. So when one is conditioned, very much conditioned by the modes of material nature, one has to follow the rules and regulations of the scriptures. That is important. When the intelligence is liberated from the bondage of Maya, however, human nature no longer needs to be governed by rules and prohibitions. Rather, it is prompted by spontaneous love. In this condition, the Vaidhi tendency no longer remains and the Raganuga tendency becomes manifest. This Raganuga tendency is the unadulterated nature of the Jiva. It is the perfected state of the self, Sabhav Siddha, transcendental Chinmay, and free from bondage to dull matter, Jara Mukta. So that is the position when one is more advanced, when one is purified in consciousness, then spontaneity will be there. One will be spontaneously attracted towards Krishna towards performing the different limbs of devotional service, especially chanting the holy names. But any devotional activity, like worshipping the deities or hearing the wonderful pastimes of Krishna or speaking about the wonderful pastimes of Krishna. And that is the natural tendency of the jiva. So by nature, the living entity has, that is his svabhav, that is his transcendental nature, that is there to serve Krishna spontaneously, out of love. So on the platform of Vaidhi Bhakti, the soul is under molds of material nature, or is conditioned, and then this spontaneous love is not there. It is a kind of force. The sadhaka practicing devotee is forcing himself to follow these principles of Vaidhi Bhakti, because he knows that it is necessary in order to become free. But as he continues, then he becomes purified in consciousness, and then naturally the loving tendency will be there, it will manifest, because it is there ultimately in the heart. It is not something which has to be achieved. It is simply a matter of purifying the consciousness. It is a matter of being in good association of the devotees who are properly situated in devotional service, and then specifically in Raganuga Bhakti, or even more exalted Bhav Bhaktas are there on the platform of Bhav or Prem, the realized souls, the pure devotees. So one should be in that association, and then it will be more easy to also perform devotional service with his loving nature, following the eternal associates of Krishna and Braj. So therefore it is recommended to be in the association of the advanced devotees and to have Braj Bhakti. As Rupa Goswami has explained in the 8th verse of Upadeshamrita, Tannam Rupa Charitadi Sukirtan Smito Kramena Masanyajya Tistan Vraje Tad Anuragi Jan Anugami Kalam Nayat Akilam Itupadesha Saram. So that's the essence of all advice, that we should be in Braj, following those who have deep love for Krishna. And so what do we do? Tannam Rupa Charitadi Sukirtan Smritam Kramena Manasin Yoja. Tan so refers to Krishna. Nama Rupa Gun. So we hear about Krishna's, we hear Krishna's name, we hear about the glories of Krishna's name, and then his qualities. Nam and his form, Nam, Rup, Gun, the qualities and then the pastimes. And in doing so, then we can advance properly in our spiritual life. So that is important to be in the association, Sajatiya Bhaktas, or the devotees who have that mood. The pure spiritual jiva's relationship with the material world is completely dominated when Sri Krishna's wills, when Sri Krishna wills. Until this time, the jiva's relationship with the material world can only tend towards its eventual cessation, Kshayanmukh. In the Kshayanamukh stage, the jiva's intelligence attains freedom from matter to the extent of Surupata Jara Mukti, but not to the extent of Vastuta Jara Mukti. So by Krishna's will, we can become free from the relationship with the material world, completely free. So not by our own endeavor, but of course we have to endeavor. And we're trying to become free. So Surupta Jara Mukti. Jara Mukti. Also Mukti, freedom from Jara, for this material world. Shy, so that means, so the Jayana Mukti, so one is inclined towards the cessation of this material existence, material life. And so, by our endeavor, something can be attained. So, but not to the highest extent. So that is explained here by Surupata Jara Mukti. So by our intelligence, we can understand our position as the eternal servant of Krishna, and we can then perform devotional service using our intelligence and following the instructions of the spiritual master. But just like Surup Siddhi is there, or Surup Ghat, so a realization of one's Swarup is there. By our endeavor, by our performance of devotional service, but then by the mercy of the Lord, we can also realize, by the mercy of Hari Guru and Vaishnava. But not to the highest extent, which is Vastuta Jara Mukti, free from this material existence. In truth, that is then Vastu Siddhi. When one is entering the pastimes of Krishna in one of the universes, then one attains Vastu Siddhi. One takes birth from the womb of one of the gopis in Braj. And so, and then one is slowly but surely engaged in the service of the divine couple of Krishna by the mercy of the associates, the eternal associates of Krishna. And then their loving exchange will be there, which is known as Vastu Siddhi, or become free from this material existence, in truth, Vastuta. When one attains the stage of Vastuta Jara Mukti, the Ragatmik Vritti, or the mood of the Ragatmikas, is awakened in the pure Jiva, both in terms of his internal spiritual identity and constitutional state. So when one comes to this platform of Vastuta Jara Mukti, then the mood of the eternal associates, Krishna's associates, will be there, will be awakened in the Jiva. So of course, as sadhaka already to some extent it is awakened, but then only when one is highly advanced, then one may realize one's Swarup. one's internal spiritual identity. And then the constitutional state, verse 2. So that, of course, is there when we enter the pastimes of Krishna. This ragatmika prakriti is the nature of the eternal residence of Braj. The jiva who in the Kshayanamukh stage follows in the wake of the ragatmika nature is known as Raganuga, one who follows the way of Rag. This condition of Raganuga should be ardently sought after by the jivas. So when one is trying to become free from the jar jagat, from this material existence, that is Kshayanamukh, it is known. Kshay means so. It is decreased. So one is inclined, unmukh, towards decreasing one's material existence. And so then one will follow the eternal associates of Krishna in Braj. One will follow their mood. And that is known as Raganuga Bhakti. And that should be sought after by the jiva. So in other words, one should try to enter the realm of Raganuga Bhakti. So, of course, which is not so easily attained, but we should try. So by strictly following the rules and regulations, but then hearing about Raganuga Bhakti, hearing about the eternal associates of Krishna and Braj, and then we can enter. Of course, we should be under proper guidance of the devotees who are practicing. Then we can enter the realm of Raganuga Bhakti. And then we can advance more rapidly. And then there's a possibility of perfection. So we should endeavor for that, but slowly but surely. We cannot prematurely jump in that subject matter. As long as this condition is absent, human intelligence remains spontaneously attached to mundane objects. So if you are not hankering for this, a spiritual path, and then the jivas in this world with the human intelligence, they are attached to mundane objects, and that is also spontaneously. So that will come spontaneously, that one is attracted to things of this material world. Due to one's nisarga, the false acquired nature, the bewildered jiva mistakenly considers attachment for mundane objects to be his natural spiritual attachment, sabhavika anurag. So the conditioned soul, so he's bewildered, and sometimes so he thinks when he's in this material world that that may be some spiritual attachment there. But that is not the case. When one is conditioned by the modes of material nature, when one is in this material world, then his natural spiritual attachment will not be there. It's not possible. Sabhavik anurag. The conception of I and mine are two types of egoism whose influence is very prominent in the mundane sphere, and which lead one to think, I am this body, and all things relating to this body are mine. So aham mameti, I and mine, that is explained in the scriptures, in the various scriptures, that we have to give up this concept of I and mine, this material concept of I and mine. Aham mameti. So, I am this body and all things relating to this body are mine. So this is a misconception actually, and this has to be given up. This is false ego, which has to be given up. But the real position is that I am Krishna's servant. And everything belongs to Krishna. So that is actually very simple. But for the conditioned soul, it is not so easy to understand or to adopt this. The true consciousness or conception that I am the eternal servant of Krishna. And everything belongs to Him. But we have to practice. So this is Sambandha Gyan. So that we have to understand. In the beginning, Krishna is Supreme Lord, I am not this body, I am spirit soul, I belong to Krishna, I am Krishna's servant, eternally. And I have to go to the spiritual rank to join His wonderful pastimes. But somehow I'm here now in this material world. But I have to try to become free from this material life. So by engaging in spiritual activities. Due to these conceptions, one naturally feels attracted to people and things that bring pleasure to the material body, and one feels averse to people and things that impede material pleasure. When the bewildered jiva falls under the sway of such attachment and aversion, he considers others to be his friends or enemies and displays love or hatred for them in three ways. Sharirika, in relation to material body and its acquisitions. Samajika, in relation to society and social ideas, samaj. And naitika, and in relation to morality and ethics, naitika. Thus engages in the struggle for material existence. So that should be given up. And one has to be very serious and sincere in our endeavor to advance in spiritual life. The false attachment for kanaka, gold, and the things that money can buy, and kamini, anyone who satisfies our perverted lust desires, brings one under the control of temporary happiness and distress. So if one is attached to things of this world, then naturally some pleasure will be there, some happiness, but then distress is there also. That is the nature of this world. Happiness and distress are there. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. Birth is there. Vyadhi, diseases. Jara, old age. And mrityu, death are there. That is unavoidable. And so, but the only way to become free from that is by surrendering to Krishna, by engaging in devotional service, by coming to this transcendental plane, platform. And then one becomes free from these. So this is known as samsara, material existence, a state in which One wanders throughout the material universe, gaining only birth, death, the fruits of karma, and various conditions of life, some high and some low. And that is in the whole material existence. So 14 planetary systems are there. So, but we have to go beyond this material existence. We have to come to the spiritual platform. Then one can become free from birth, death, old age, and disease, from the various conditions of life. The jivas who are bound in this way cannot easily comprehend spiritual attachment, chit anurag. Nor can they have any realization or experience of such a thing. In reality, this spiritual attachment is a jiva's true function, swadharma, and is eternal nature. So only devotees who are engaged in devotional service, they can understand this spiritual life, this transcendental life. However, he forgets this and becomes engrossed in attachment to matter, although he is actually a particle of consciousness. Thus he suffers degradation. This is a miserable condition. Although hardly any of the jivas who are thus entangled in samsara think so. So the majority of the people in this material world, they are trying to be happy in this material world. They are engaged in sense gratification. And the majority, they don't even want to endeavor to become free from this material existence. They are not endeavoring to realize their spiritual nature. At the same time, of course, especially in Bharatvarsa, persons are there who are interested in spiritual life and take up the path of devotional service. Even nowadays, also in the West, so people understand that this material life is not everything, and they also try to endeavor towards spiritual life. The jivas bound by Maya are wholly unacquainted with the Raganuga nature, to say nothing of the Ragatmic nature. The Raganuga nature may be awakened in the hearts of the jivas, but only occasionally by the mercy of sadhus. Consequently, this Raganuga nature is rare and difficult to obtain, and those who are entangled in samsara are cheated of it by Maya. So Raganuga Bhakti is not so easily attained. It is only occasionally attained, as mentioned here, by the mercy of the sadhus. Of course, also one must be inclined towards that, and due to previous impressions, one may be inclined. We can see even in spiritual societies that not everyone is inclined towards Braj Bhakti. And even those who have some inclination, but they may not understand this Raganuga Bhakti properly, and so they may not be able to enter that realm of Raganuga Bhakti. So it is rarely obtained. So therefore others, that is also of course by the will of the Lord. So others are simply engaged in ordinary devotional service. Bhagavan, however, is all-knowing, merciful. He saw that the jivas who are bound by Maya have been cheated of their spiritual inclination. Now, how will they attain good fortune? By what means can remembrance of Krishna be aroused in the hearts of the jivas who are enthralled by Maya? But the association of sadhus and jivas will be able to understand that they are servants of Krishna. Yet because there is no prescribed injunction that one must associate with sadhus, where is there even a hope that sadhu sangha, the association of saintly devotees, may be possible or easily attainable by for all? So sadhu sangha is not so easily attained also. So it is by good fortune one comes in the association of the sadhus, and then by good fortune one can understand this subject matter to some extent by the mercy of the sadhus, and then we can advance further. So therefore it is also recommended that in the beginning one has to follow the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, following rules and regulations. And if the Vaidhi Bhakti is not followed, then there will be no spaciousness for the general mass of people. So sadhu sangha has to be there, and the rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti have to be given. Then the general mass of people, they may be able to be influenced, and they may be able to take it up, the path of devotional service. So Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Manusyanam sahasreshu kashtit yatati siye yadadam abhisidadam kashti mam viti tattvataha. So this, amongst many human beings, or Manusyanam sahasreshu, among thousands of men. So one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who are then so fortunate and they adopt this process and they try to advance, then it is only very few who can become liberated, who may attain bhakti. So those who know Krishna, Veti Tattvata, in truth, they are rare. Janma karvan chave divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. Again, veti tattvataha. So who know in truth completely this subject matter, so, and they engage in devotional service, so that is rare. And again, sadhu sangha is explained. By sadhu sangha we can advance. By sadhu sangha we can get the inspiration. By sadhu sangha one can properly execute devotional service. And then by sadhu sangha we can come to the path of spontaneous love. So also Bhavanam Janmanante Jnanavama Papadiri Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Surulabhaha. Krishna says to Arjuna also, after many births, Bahunam Janmanante Jnanavamam Papadite. So, after many births or many lifetimes, so then we may be understand. We may be able to understand Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, and surrender to Him, and understand that He's everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Samahatma Sudulavaha. So a Mahatma, such a Mahatma is very rare, that we have to understand. So we stop here today. Any questions? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. No questions? So we stop here. Hare Krishna.